Something weird is happening now, and maybe it's just me, but I feel like nowadays, bars feel a little bit emptier. Clubs aren't as packed as they used to be. And the idea of a house party, well, I mean, that's basically a thing of the past. I mean, of course, in the early 2000s, we would watch these shows or movies, and then, every time there was a scene of this like house party, people would be, dancing, having a good time and things like that. But, nowadays, the idea of us, we were growing up looking forward to being able to, oh, I want to go to a party at least once in my life. Nowadays, that idea is pretty much out the window, pretty much just up in the air, because no one really goes out anymore. And it's not just people getting older, it's just that compared to millennials or Gen X, we just don't go out as much. I personally believe it's due to the fact of multiple reasons and not just one singular one. For example, things are too expensive nowadays. Let's just be honest. I mean, what is a typical, you and your friends going out, like what does a typical night like that look like? Well, I mean, of course, if y'all decide to Uber, that's about what, 20-30 bucks right there, already gone. Drinks nowadays I think are like what, between like 12 and like 17-18 bucks on average. And then afterwards, people are gonna be hungry, so you got to spend at least another 20 bucks to get some food. And then we haven't even talked about like the cover charge to get into some of these places or to get in some of these bars or clubs. It's just like maybe 10-20 bucks just to get in. And I'm no mathematician, but if you add all that up, you're looking at least 80 to 120 bucks just for one night. I mean, on top of that, us as a generation is dealing with things like insane rent prices, inflation, student loans, like the list just goes on and on. And I find it funny how sometimes some of the older generation be like, well, you guys, when I was your age, I was doing this and we were going out and we were going all these places. And then, they might ask, oh, okay, well, why do you stay home? Because staying home is free. Let's just be honest. I mean, you got multiple streaming services now. Most people would rather just invite a couple of friends over and chill, kick it, rather than going out and spending all this money, because it's more convenient, number one, and number two, doesn't cost you a dime. Which leads me to my second point. I mean, let's just be honest, the internet has kind of taken over the idea of being social, interacting with real people. And I'm not gonna lie, it is not healthy to just be indoors. I'm not trying to promote people just staying in and being a hermit. That's not healthy at all. You still need to go out, you still need to meet people, you still need to interact and connect with people, right? But there comes a point where you have to also assess whether it's worth it or not, because nowadays you got things like Discord, you got Twitch streams or whatever you want to call it, right? You got some people on TikTok lives, you play games with friends online. There's multiple ways to interact with people without necessarily going out. Again, I'm not promoting the idea of, oh, you just need to stay in because things are too expensive. No, because that's not healthy either. But I am saying, if it comes with a measure of assessment taking. You got to understand where the risks are involved and the costs and everything, and just understand how are you gonna move about if you do plan on going out, and make sure you budget yourself accordingly. Also, another aspect that most people don't talk about is the idea that dating for the most part has changed. For the most part, when people went out, they're there to have a good time or hang out with their friends or whatever, but also it's a good opportunity to meet people. You're going out, it's a social environment, people are having a good time. You might meet someone, you may not. It's just things going on in the back of people's heads, right? But since no one really goes out and socializes as much as previous generations, the ideas with the parties or the clubs or social gatherings or anything like that when you're going out, it just doesn't happen, because nowadays people are meeting through dating apps, Instagram and TikTok. And again, that goes back to my other point where the internet just kind of took over the idea of actual human interaction. And I'm not gonna lie, another factor that a lot of people don't want to admit is that COVID really changed a lot of things, right? I mean, you used to have this thing where this idea of people going out having a good time, and then now when COVID hit, everyone had to stay inside. We had online classes, more people watch streaming or YouTube or doing other things like that, and online became less of a shunned upon thing and more like a lifestyle. Okay, so now we have this culture that, you know, kind of, you know, enjoys the idea of just staying in, being online or whatever, because we've grown so used to it, because, you know, during the shutdowns and everything, no one can do anything. No one can really go outside or interact with family, friends, or loved ones or anything like that. So people just kind of got comfortable, and they were just like, well, I mean, this is the new norm. Things are too expensive anyway, so why even bother trying to go out? And then to top it all off, you just have this huge wave of just social anxiety just going over just completely, right? Like Gen Z nowadays, we just have like some of the highest rates of anxiety and depression, like just insanely, like even more than previous generations. And again, it goes back to, I believe it was my second point, where social media kind of just like spearheaded that, with this idea of people having a quote unquote perfect life on these platforms, and people portray that, and then people see that, and whether it's true or not, if you constantly see that every day of people posting, look at what I did here, or look at where I went, and I'm doing this, and I'm at this social event or whatever, then eventually it's gonna get to some people, and some people are just like, well, why even bother with that when I can just stay in? And my life is not like that anyway, so why even try, right? And then now you have this culture of people living vicariously through other people, again going back to the social media and content thing, and that's a whole nother video of itself. You know, subscribe if you want to see something like that later on. But yeah, it's something to where now people have this idea of, okay, if I go out, I'm gonna do it for the gram, or I'm gonna do it, you know, for clips or whatever, you know, whether it be vlogs or nightlife, doing TikTok, or watching streamers hang out. You know, that's a big thing too. Like, you know, a lot of people don't go out themselves, but you know, they'll sit there for hours and watch other streamers go out and have a good time, which I think is really ridiculous. But I mean, you know, do what you want to do with your own time. So yeah, I just think, you know, with certain things changing and how the economy is nowadays, I think, you know, going out, or the idea of going out, is just, you know, I guess people have to be more cautious about it nowadays, you know, with budgeting and, you know, planning it out accordingly, so you're not, you know, spending all this money but you still want to have a good time. And just, you know, even finding healthy alternatives, like again, inviting people over for a little get together, or going to more of those, you know, I guess more social gatherings. You know, you don't necessarily have to go out to like a bar or nightclub, but there's other opportunities and other ways for you to interact with people without, you know, enclosing yourself and, you know, keeping yourself locked up in a sense. But anyway, you guys, that is the end of the video. Comment down below your favorite part, and if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and like the video, and I'll catch you guys next time.